Oh wow, like 10 times our sun, 100 times our sun.
But
Nah.
you see how insane it gets, and we're not
And
even.
have we seen these stars with the
They're
telescope?
observable with the telescopes. Yeah, yeah, they're observable, and
And
they've
they
all been
know, so
named and
they
they've
know
all
the
been
size
registered
quite accurately.
quite accurately. Exactly.
Bro,
Yeah.
now I've lost the scale even. This is nuts.
Hmm.
2 million, 2.5, no, 2.5 billion kilometers across.
Yeah.
So does this whole thing of particles act differently whether they are being observed or not?
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
heard about
absolutely,
that,
yeah.
yeah?
Yeah, I've heard of that, yeah.
That
But
is
there's also
nuts.
they've achieved, as far as I remember, they've achieved some level of teleportation on a quantum level. So just on the Matrix, there's like a line that a lot of people miss in the first film, but essentially it's machines have taken over and they're using human bodies as batteries essentially to power
Mm,
themselves, power the machines. And there's this line where he mentions when he's explaining it, like this Matrix, that the movie, it's set in a not even the first iteration of this project. It's like, oh, this isn't the first time they've done this. They've tried it before, but they've had different versions before. And
oh,
it's noted that before they did it where humans weren't given any sort of world to live in. They were just purely, like you said, vegetables,
yeah.
and it didn't work because something innate in the human existence is like they have to experience things as opposed to just having it. So they came up with the machines
Oh,
came up with this idea that we should
like a VR
simulate
world
life.
kind of thing.
Yeah, so we'll simulate life, so they think they're living a life. That way,
That's nuts.
we can extract the best form of energy from them because they'll
That's
think,
nuts. Okay.
boom.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So, sell it to me, Muhammad. Why should I care about some damn telescope?
Yo, some damn telescope, bro. Okay, let me put it to you this way. I'm not even going to put it up to you this way. Actually, forget that. Let's just bring up the image. Let's bring up the image. God, what is there an acronym for it? No, I could completely put something else. James Webb. James Webb, baby. I need to find out who this guy is.
It's probably some
Right.
like Satanist LGBT.
Wow. Okay. How many seconds are we in? Getting flagged already. Right. Let's share the Dawn screen so we can share this beautiful imagery with the rest of the crew. This is probably the best picture, but can we see that? Can we see my screen? Yes, we can. I mean, he's still there. He's
I
gone
am.
quiet. Oh, brilliant. Look at this
Yeah,
beautiful, beautiful image, which I was still doing a bit of research on earlier before we start recording.
that is
Um,
incredible.
that, bro, I mean, I need to double check if the colors are accurate and if that's like to the naked eye, because a lot of these
Yeah,
shots
I
are
don't. Yeah, I
infrared.
think it's colored in. I
Yeah,
think the images that they receive are just black, like shades of gray, right?
yeah. There's some level of infrared sort of coloring and stuff, but no. Generally speaking, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that is also to the naked eye as well, uh, because you've got the hues at the top, which are black, so you've got the dark hues at the top, which signifies that possibly that is naked eye imagery. And then these dust clouds, anyway, they represent they're going to represent elements that are in our atmosphere regardless, which would give off those colors. Like all the planets that we see, in our local cluster have colors and coloration to them and stuff like that. So it doesn't mean the color doesn't exist in
Damn, you
the
talking like a
wider,
pro, bro.
bro.
What's going
So,
on, bro?
bro, like, I just love this stuff.
You into
Absolutely
it,
love
yeah?
it. I've got a new
Like,
microphone, so I can whisper now, and maybe hopefully you can hear me.
yeah.
Brilliant.
So
Shout out
how?
to our sponsors who listened to the episode, whatever episode it was, where I mentioned
Mashallah,
about
yeah.
sponsoring. Quite a lot
Allah,
of
Allah
people.
yajzihum khair, yeah. So you're into this stuff, yeah? Like space.
Right.
From what angle?
So when I was a young boy in the Tunisian wilderness,
Desert.
absolutely, I used to spend many hours just on the flat roof, just staring at the night sky, which was incredible because we didn't have much light pollution. And um, to be honest, there was this old tale that my gran used to tell me, which now that I'm older, I don't think there's any sort of dalil for. But it used to be like, oh, they used to say, oh, on Laylatul Qadr, if you're really blessed, like Allah will show you the doors of Jannah in the sky, and if you see that, if you're one of those lucky people that sees that, then you have any wish you want granted, right? So we used
Wow.
to spend like especially those times, you should spend all night just staring at the sky. And actually, I've heard the same thing in Morocco as well.
Mm.
Um, so that kind of started my whole uh, stargazing journey because for a long time I thought that was real. But no, I've seen some fascinating things. I've seen all sorts of like meteorites and stuff falling out of the sky, but like not just the small little things, like huge things that lit up the entire sky.
Mm.
Um, and for some reason, and I'm sure it's across the whole world. I mean, this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the stars, mentions the heavens in the Quran so much. That is such a spectacle for for definitely the people of the past, and definitely the Arabs of the past, because of no light pollution. You can imagine what it looked like, a
Yeah.
painted picture every night, but also for us as a sign. And with the technology that we have now, and this is an example, look at how incredible that is, and think that that's just a tiny, 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 tiny fragment of the night sky and of what's observable with the technology we have.
Yeah.
And each one of those stars is, could have countless planets, countless worlds on it, and stars of all different sizes, stars of all different sort of. I mean, technically, you're looking into the past as well. That's another thing, if you were to study a bit of that
Mm.
science, is that the light that reaches you is actually took some time to get there. So actually,
Yeah.
you could
Yeah.
be looking into thousands, millions
How,
of years
you
into
know
the
the
past.
sun that we see from Earth? How old is that? Is it like 8 years old or more than
No, no,
that?
no. So we see eight. I think it's 8 minutes. I think, yeah, is it 8 minutes? I think
Oh,
it's eight
oh.
minutes. Yeah, I feel like
Or
I
is the
was doing
moon
something.
maybe is 8 minutes?
No, I can't
So
remember. It's either the moon
that
or the
would
sun.
mean the moon we see is like 2 minutes old or like not very old.
Something like that. Either way, whatever we see in those, because of the space that's between us,
Yeah, yeah.
we see it in the past. And obviously, I'd love to get a Muslim sort of astrophysicist on the show to go into this. But what ultimately got me back onto Twitter just to tweet this image was essentially how much of a fool is the person who can see something like this and choose to live in ignorance. Um, because this is just a tiny, tiny, tiny snapshot of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's might. Because this to me is absolutely incredible. And to think the scale of a human being compared to all of this, the scale of a human being compared to the sun, let alone all the suns that are millions of times bigger than ours when they've done that research, it just shows you that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is bigger and greater than all of that. And suddenly, when you read about the prophets shaking on Yom Al Qiyamah because of Allah's might and Allah's presence in that sort of scene,
Mm.
it just puts things into way more perspective. And it reminds me of something we spoke about before on Mind Heist, where we said when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses an adjective to describe something, that adjective is almost in its absolute it's in its absolute maximum.
Yeah.
When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, well, بصرك يومئذ شديد, or something along those lines, like on that day your eyesight will be like sharp. There is no that's like describing something, right? So there's no, like, in my head I'm thinking the most ultimate sharpness, the most
Yeah.
ultimate, like there is no, like I might not even blink on that day because there is nothing, no barrier, right?
Yeah.
When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes himself in his 99 beautiful names, it's the ultimate version of that adjective. When he's
Mm.
loving, it's the ultimate version of whatever that word could possibly mean.
Yeah.
So when Allah speaks about the might of the night sky and the might of his creation, look at this compared to what I can do on Photoshop. Do you know what I mean? Like, but this is real life. This is real 3D, 4D,
Yeah.
5D, whatever dimensions you want to talk about.
Mm.
And it's just I get lost in it. And this stuff, everybody's got their own thing, right? Everybody's got what boosts their iman, and just observe the universe being observed like this has always been something that is absolutely, like, my iman just shoots through the roof. I saw this image and I looked at my wife and I told her, like, how could I ever disobey the creator of this?
Mm.
Look what he created. Look at all these stars. Look how, like, I can't even look at these with the naked eye without getting my eyes burned. You know what I mean? And I'm going to disobey the creator of all of this, and it just blows me away. For other people, it might not necessarily, blip the radar for them. And I notice that a lot. I'll share this so emphatically with people. and
Yeah.
they're just like, oh yeah, that's cool, and they'll carry on with their day. I'm like,
Mm.
no, seriously, like I want to grab them and just make them stare at this thing and appreciate it, you know. But what do you feel when you see this? What and images like it?
um, Nothing.
Really?
I don't know, man. That one particularly, like when I first saw it, it's like very, it's amazing. But now
Yeah,
I've been looking at it for a while. It looks quite artificial, but the meaning behind it is powerful. Yeah, it is. But
absolutely, absolutely.
I have to think about it quite a lot for it to become more powerful. You know, this picture.
This one here.
Scroll up a bit. This image we're looking at, like, what percentage? How do I say this? What percentage of what we know exists is visible in that image? It's like less than 1%, right?
Oh, it's no, no, way less than 1%. Way
Yeah,
less than 1%. Think about how
it's
tiny.
crazy.
Have here's the analogy of, oh, it's not showing what I'm looking at. Oh, I know why, because I'm on a different tab. Um, I'm on a different tab. Essentially, think of that analogy of a plane. When you move a plane just a few degrees, and it suddenly ends up in a different location.
Yeah, yeah,
Do you understand what I'm talking about? When you turn a plane in just a small degree, minuscule degree, over the long term, it ends up in a different location. Now think of that, but pointing out the night sky. You will literally move the tiniest of spaces, like move the telescope to the right, just the tiniest bit, and you'll be looking at it completely different.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and that's just of what we can reach, and actually, what is beyond that is way more. And we're in one galaxy, and we've got a close neighboring galaxy, the Andromeda
Yeah.
galaxy, close to us. But then there's so many others, and the other. I wanted to just share this one quickly, if I can. Oh God, I should just share my whole screen really, but. This is just a brief other one that the James Webb Telescope kind of got up, which is all of those sort of wider ones are different galaxies as opposed to stars. So um,
Wait,
it's just
what's a
absolutely fascinating to
galaxy?
me.
Is a galaxy a group of stars or
Galaxy,
the
like
other way
yeah.
around?
So can you see this?
Yeah,
Can you see this little one?
yeah.
That's that swirl is just countless thousands, millions, billions of stars all together.
And each
Right?
one of those stars could be like a sun, basically.
It could be a sun, it could be smaller than the sun. Most of them are way larger. I don't know
Yeah.
if you've ever seen the size of suns, sort of size of stars comparison videos. There's a very famous one that went
Oh,
viral where it was. I mean, we can even watch this on mute because you'll be
flabbergasted.
absolutely flabbergasted. And you've never really gone down this rabbit hole before? Doesn't sound
No,
like you
can't
have.
say I have. This kind of reminds me
Oh,
of school.
really?
That's how long
This
it's
stuff,
been.
and this is like, this is stuff you can easily get lost in, but I feel like there's a lot of benefit in it. Um, Obviously, you could be someone who takes things, with a grain of salt and wants to be relatively pessimistic about it. Some people are. I don't see the point of people sort of lying about this sort of stuff. But let's just try to get a little comparison going.
Let's see
So this,
this.
can I play it on quicker? Do we have like a quicker option? Yeah, playback speed. There we go.
So even Mars, which I think of Mars as quite big. Oh, Mars is smaller than Earth.
Yeah, yeah. So this is Earth.
Wow.
So we're gonna play it at 2 times the speed just to kind of get through it.
Okay.
But you
I
see, like, okay,
thought.
you've kind of seen how Earth was,
Yeah, yeah.
right? That's another star.
Oh, is that not our
But we're
sun?
still, yeah. Now this is another star. Our sun's coming up next, I believe. Yeah.
Oi!
But look how much bigger we
Oi!
get. Look how much bigger we get. You
Yeah.
know.
Oh, wow. Like 10 times our sun. 100 times our sun.
But
Nah.
you see how insane it gets. And we're not
And
even.
have we seen these stars with the
They're
telescope?
observable with the telescopes. Yeah, yeah, they're observable, and
And
they've all
they
been
know,
named
so
and
they
they've
know
all
the
been
size
registered
quite accurately.
quite accurately. Exactly.
Bro,
Yeah.
now I've lost the scale even. This is nuts.
Mhm.
2 million, 2.5, no, 2.5 billion kilometers across.
So they'll do these videos are absolutely fascinating, and this is what I mean
Shut
when I
up, bro.
say
Shut up.
this is what I mean when I say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is greater than all of this. And all this really is a ball of fire in the sky.
Yeah,
But look
yeah,
how
gases
large
and
it
stuff.
is. Look how large it
Whoa,
is.
now they're showing you what a light year is.
Yeah.
No, no. Now when someone says light year, now I take it seriously.
Unless
Whoa.
it's Buzz Lightyear, of course.
So
No,
so how
honestly,
how far away is the telescope that took the
not too far out. Not too far out. I
how
think
many
it's
like
just out of our.
not like less than a light year, yeah?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, we haven't breached that kind of level of time.
Okay,
A
what's this
light year
last
is.
one? What
So
are we
this is
looking at now? Are
showing you
these
galaxies. No, so it's zooming out outside of our galaxy and then all of the other galaxies that
no,
we
this
are
is
aware of.
nuts. So between the first two galaxies it zoomed out to show, they
Yeah.
were like thousands of light years apart.
But these aren't stars that we're looking at. These are
Yeah, yeah.
galaxies.
These are galaxies which each have their own stars, right?
Yeah. So this is like some sort of
Supercluster. I feel like this is
immeasurable.
getting too far now. We don't know this stuff.
You'd be surprised, bro.
We know what's like 7 billion light years like old.
From here, it gets a bit theoretical, but this is the
Okay.
afterglow of. So this is like basically looking into the past, and it's like only a few seconds, maybe not even that, maybe even less, just after the Big Bang, because that light takes so long to travel to you
Yes.
that theoretically you can see just after the Big Bang because that
Wow.
light takes so long to
So
travel
it's,
to you.
yeah, I heard about this when this podcast I was listening to. They were talking about this James Webb telescope, and they were talking about that concept of like it's kind of like time travel, but you can't go in the future. You can only see the past.
Yes.
So you
That leads
can.
me on to
So if you could, 1 second, yeah, if you
yeah, no,
could
go for it.
travel. Let me just like get rid of this screen
Yeah, go
share.
for it.
Where am I? Yeah. So if you could, I don't know if this is right. If you could go the speed of light, if you could travel the speed of light, and you keep going like whatever direction, yeah, in space,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
would you? No, you would.
Age
You
slower.
would not be traveling physically in time, would you?
No, but time would be different for you than it would be for someone on Earth. So this is what I
Yeah,
was going to
yeah.
say. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Interstellar. So after I watched all of this stuff, I was like, I need to go back and watch Interstellar again.
Okay.
One of my favorite films, like absolutely top tier. Absolutely love it. There's no funny business in it. I was telling a brother the other day, I was like, it's one of the rare films that don't have no nudity, no funny business. It's just like a parent-child story, right?
Okay.
In some way. But spoilers for anyone who hasn't watched Interstellar, you can skip like a few minutes. But unless you want to watch it. But the premise is essentially the world is dying, right? We're kind of the global warming catastrophe, whatever, is kind of taken. So we kind of need to leave the planet. Like crops are dying, people are struggling. The plan that NASA has is essentially we're either going to we're going to try and take all the human beings on Earth to another planet. We've identified these planets in a different galaxy. Take them all to that planet, or give up on Earth and start a new population there with all these frozen, fertilized eggs and stuff, and start a new human population there. Right?
Okay.
Now, what's happened miraculously is that a wormhole has opened up near Saturn or Jupiter or something like that, and it's allowed us to travel through that wormhole into another galaxy. Anyway, long story short, our main character has kids. He's got a daughter and a son. He has to leave them so he can go and basically scout out these planets or whatever. One of the planets that they go to is close to a black hole. Okay, because of the gravitational pull on the black hole, it distorts space-time, meaning that, like on one of the planets, an hour on one of those planets is 7 years on Earth. Now this is real life stuff. Like this is proven in physics that this is theoretically possible, and because space and time are relative.
Is that
this
because of gravity?
Yeah, so not to get too technical, but the theory of relativity from
Bro,
Einstein.
bro, you're professional, bro.
It's only because I play loads of sci-fi.
Educate me, bro.
But space and time is relative. And it goes
Space
back to
and
what
time is relative.
space.
Does that mean
Yeah.
they're not directly linked, Yanni? That's right. Not proportionate to each other.
It does mean they're linked, but it's also I mean, I should probably do my research before I say anything, but essentially, there's a connection there, and it shows you, like before, about like light has to travel through space, and it takes time. You understand what I mean? So there's a connection there, but essentially the movie shows this theoretical, what if this could happen, and essentially they get delayed. This mission gets delayed multiple times. Like they get delayed on one planet because some catastrophe happens. They come back, and instead of it being a couple of years how they planned it to be, so they left somebody on the ship. It was meant to be 2 years. He was going to research. They were going to do the thing and come
Yeah.
back. And it was meant to take them an hour, but take him 2 years. They came back and had been 20 something years, 26 years, because they were too slow. Do
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So he aged a lot. He's like, I thought you were never going to come. I went crazy. I went insane. But ultimately, spoiler alert, the ending of the movie, despite the fact that you think he's not going to make it, he makes it back. He communicates with Earth through gravity, because gravity can travel through time, all this science stuff, I don't know. But essentially, he makes it back to the human population, but his daughter is now like 90 something and she's about to die and she's got grandkids,
Yeah.
right? And actually, there's this beautiful scene.
And how
which
old is he?
He's still the same age he left, like
Oh,
maybe 30 something or 40
because
something,
for
right?
him it was a few years of
But
time
for him, it
only.
was, yeah, for him, it was actually a few years,
Yeah.
uh, because, yeah, because it only took him a couple of years to get to such and such. But for them, time passed. And because there's one scene which is really great, those 26 years that he got delayed, he comes back and they've been receiving messages from Earth, like video messages from his
Yeah.
family. He comes back on the ship, bro, and it's a very famous scene. And he's got like 26 years worth of messages from his children.
Wow.
And it's like he's watching his children grow up
Yeah.
and their life
In
experiences
real time.
and real time. And he's watching like his son's like, his daughter's not talking to him for most of it because she's angry that he left. But his son's like, I want you to meet your grandchild. His name is such and such, and he's really happy. And then suddenly the next clip, we had to bury his granddad, so we had to bury granddad and we had to bury the child next to him. So the child that he just celebrated
Yeah.
died in the next clip, and then it's just progression. And he's
Yeah.
like, his emotions are up and down because he's watching his kids grow up right in front of him. But ultimately, it's just fascinating.
Is
And
that scientifically accurate, or is it just Hollywood?
if you were to be in that situation, I mean, there's no way that they can travel that we haven't got the technology to travel like that now. But let's say hypothetically,
But
if
if
you
we
were to
could.
be placed, if you were there right now, yeah, you would have that difference. Like if you had a super powerful telescope and you were God knows how many, like you were on the other side of the universe, right? Or
Yeah.
other side of this galaxy, and you had a super powerful telescope and you could literally see ground level of the Earth, you would be seeing dinosaurs. Like you would be seeing Earth in the past because it takes that long for the light to travel to the other side
So why
of the
can't we do
galaxy.
that? Why don't we do that?
Because we ain't there yet, bro. It takes too long to travel there.
Oh, okay, we
They've,
just have to get there. Yeah. But
yeah.
if we could travel faster, then we get there
If we
quicker.
could, yeah, if we could travel at the speed of light,
So
absolutely.
what's like? There's no. Is there any like friction or resistance forces in space?
No, there's no.
So why can't we
The
just?
only resistance you'll have is crashing into something, I suppose, whether it's
Okay.
space,
So
debris, or
surely, if you have a normal rocket engine and you're in space, you could
yeah.
infinitely accelerate then, right?
I don't think so. I think it reaches a point, doesn't it?
I
You
mean,
can
I
only
don't know.
accelerate to,
Bro,
unless you had infinite
I didn't go
fuel.
past GCSE physics.
Unless you've got infinite fuel, I don't think you can. I think it would reach a certain point, and when the fuel
Of
runs out,
course, yeah,
you
you would run
cap
out of
off,
fuel, yeah.
and
Huh.
whatever fuel it is has to get you to that speed. And
You see,
it's
that's
it's
kind of
obviously,
interesting. I'm
yeah.
more into the dinosaurs than the galaxy stuff.
Ultimately, bro. Ultimately, to bring it back down to layman's level, including myself. I'm not saying I'm a scientist. It's all an iman boosting exercise for me, all right? And I think it should be because Allah Subhanahu wa Taala speaks about the heavens often in the Quran. Speaks about how he's not ordained. What's the word I'm trying to use? Ornate? No, it's not really a verb. But how he's beautified the night sky with these signs, and I just find it like the natural world in itself is a sign, whether it's the environment around us, whether it's the animals, whether it's the wildlife, whether it's the ocean. No matter where you look, there's this immense creation in front of you, and
Yeah.
that is. And then when you read about, the ahadith in relation to this dunya, and popping your finger into the ocean and taking it out, the water that's left on your finger, that's the dunya, compared to what Allah Subhanahu wa Taala has left is the rest of the ocean. You
Yeah.
know, depending on the tafsir of the ulama, this stuff that we're looking at, those images we looked at, could still be classed as the first heaven, could still be classed as the observable universe. It's not necessarily the ghaib. Is that the
Yeah.
ghaib? That what we've just zoomed out on,
Well, it's not a raven if we
it's
see
not
it.
the ghaib because
Yeah.
we've seen it. So think like that's what I'm just like, wow, who am I to waste my akhirah on this little thing? This thing that's in front of me that looks so incredible. I shouldn't. I can imagine this. I can close my eyes now and imagine those pictures. I can close my eyes and imagine another planet similar to this because people have done it. You've seen all the movies and you've seen, the video games and stuff where they're imagining a different planet and a different sort of solar system, a different galaxy. Well, as long as we can imagine it, then it's not the afterlife. It's not Jannah,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that should really put things into perspective. That Allah Subhanahu wa Taala has packed this dunya, this universe, with so much, so much, because that's the outside. Okay, that's out there. Think about the microscopic details on the dunya. Have you ever seen like microscopic images of like even your skin or the human
Yeah, a little
body
bit, yeah.
or a rock or some bacteria and the detail and the intricacies of that creation? That's a whole other world, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a quantum level of things as well. There's an atomic level of things in terms of atoms and the way things are built. It's incredible. So there's detail. There's almost infinite detail in the microscopic, and
And in the
infinite detail
macro.
in the
Yeah.
macro. And we're somewhere not even in the middle. We're on the smaller scale of
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
things.
Definitely.
But that should really just absolutely blow you away. And I think it's the greatest gift that we have in this day and age, because we did lose through the modern industrial era. We lost the ability to just look at the naked sky and appreciate it like the Sahaba may have done in the past, right?
Sure. Yeah.
We've lost that ability. But actually, we've been gifted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, first and foremost, with the ability and the technology to look even further and deeper. And yet we still remain ignorant. And when somebody says who created all of this, the same arguments that the Quran puts forward, where it's like, wow, yeah, it's a big bang and it's a big, like, you've got to be really, ignorant to go down that road. But that's just my perspective, bro.
I
That's my
guess it's like
perspective.
it makes you feel small and it makes you feel Allah's big. Both, yani,
Oh,
in both
absolutely.
directions, innit?
Absolutely.
Wow. If what we saw in that what's it called? Telescope image.
Yeah.
If what we saw is like a fraction of what Allah has created.
Minuscule, yeah.
Think about this,
But,
yeah. Like if I was gonna create something mad, something like that, yeah. So complicated, intricate, balanced, big, all of that, yeah. Bro, I want some recognition. I want some validation. I want someone to view it. But Allah, I mean, Allahu Alam, what's out there, right? But it seems like Allah created that, almost like knowing that no one would ever see it.
Yeah.
So what about the things that Allah did create that, we will see? And
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say, I guess, the original thought was, Allah doesn't need to impress us.
No, of
Allah
course.
just create this, like, I don't know if it's the right way of saying it, but it's like child's play, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, it's nothing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yeah.
It's nothing to. And what's also good is that it's humbling, because
Yeah.
what could happen? Like there's this theory of, well, if there's this many planets, this many stars, this many galaxies, then there must be intelligent life out there.
Yeah.
Okay, there must be. Okay, that's the
Probability
theory.
wise, yeah.
Probability, right? But listen, me as a Muslim, I could say, Allah knows best. We don't know. They haven't discovered that yet. I mean, we know about the jinn, and we don't know how far they extend.
Yeah.
It could be the jinn now on other planets. We don't know. But let's just say hypothetically, it's just us and the jinn, and there's no one beyond the Earth. If there's no one beyond Earth, living on these other planets, that should mean nothing to your iman. In fact, all that should do is humble you even more. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could create this entire universe and literally just put us in it in some small remote location just to prove how insignificant we are in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His might. We shouldn't consider, like, I don't know if you've ever looked at the night sky long enough, like lied there and just stared at it long enough and get that feeling in your gut, almost like that feeling that you're going to fall off of the edge of something. Like if you've ever stood on a high building and you've got that feeling of like, oh, I'm about to fall in, or I'm about to sink into this. Like I've had that where I've tried to like look at the night sky like this, so I'm blocking out anything that's like a tree or the ground or whatever, and just look like make it so that I feel like I'm literally immersed in this scene, and then suddenly if you look long enough, you all have this feeling of like, oh my God, I'm absolutely tiny,
Mm.
like I'm absolutely insignificant, subhanAllah. Um, and that's a small
Yeah.
taste in front of Allah's creation, let alone in front of Allah on the Day of Judgment. You know,
What about quantum, bro? I
but
I
bro,
I heard a little taster of some of the, how do you say it, conclusions that people came to
yeah,
after discovering the, what's it called? Is it called is it entanglement? You know, this like three states of matter and all that.
right.
There's a state between, is
So like
it,
the quantum level.
yeah, a wave and a particle or something, yeah?
So,
So
yeah.
I don't know how. Do you know about it? Like, can you explain to me how people can look at physical matter, like particles, for example, and then from that they come to these mad philosophical conclusions?
I think it's more about going like deeper and deeper into that microscopic level, right?
Yeah,
Um, and the more you go, you could always keep saying, okay, so we've discovered this thing. What's that thing made of? All right, let's
yeah,
break it down even more. What's that made of? Let's break it down even more.
yeah,
What's that made of? And as far as I know, like, you know, when I was at school, the smallest thing we knew of was atoms.
yeah.
But now, someone could ask, well, what's that made of? It's that constant question that the West always does, isn't it?
What
So
is
who made
a
that? Where that came from?
is an atom made of something else?
Could be. It could be that there's building blocks to an atom itself. You
Oh,
know,
here's quantum entanglement. Yeah. Uh,
bit of a
Ah,
science lesson
interesting.
today.
So this is like basically it says quantum entanglement is the physical phenomenon that occurs when a group of particles, I don't know what a particle is, a group of particles are generated, interact or share spatial proximity, yeah, so they're next to each other,
Yeah.
in such a way that the quantum state of each particle of the group cannot be described independently of the state of others. Yeah, meaning because I've heard some people talk about this about how everything's connected. Yeah,
Right. So you
and
can't. So
when you go on a quantum level like this mug, yeah, this mug is made of particles. Those particles are kind of part of each other, even though you can see them as independent. But when you zoom in enough or something,
yeah, it must be. It's like the
they,
border in between.
yes, and I heard some wacky conclusions like, you know, kind of like that means we're all one, like we all interact because this mug is interacting with the table, and then I'm going to touch the table, so I'm interacting with the table, and then we're all connected somehow.
I mean, look, everything is some sort of contact with something else because that's the nature of the
Yeah,
of the world, right? So I think if
yeah,
you, it's basically when the borders get blurred. Like if you
yes,
zoom in far enough,
yeah,
at what point, like you look at a border of this and this, well, at some point there's going to be some level of crossover there. It's like when
yes,
you're, you know,
and
maybe there's no hard borders.
yeah, exactly. That's the theory, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it comes, it links to the butterfly effect, isn't it?
Mm.
Where the whole thing of if a butterfly flaps its wings on the other side of the world, it create
Yeah,
a
a ripple
hurricane on
effect.
the other side,
Yeah, it's
and
like
it's
ripple
because
effect.
everything's connected.
No, absolutely.
Is
But then
that
we don't know,
legit?
like, no, but it's that theory, like, if you were to go back in time and change one action, that one action could create a ripple effect that could
Yeah, yeah.
transform the rest of the
But
world.
we're not talking about actions. We're talking about physically, like literally that example of the
Yeah.
butterfly flapping its wings. No, forget that even because that I can actually process in my brain, right?
Right.
But this
Yeah.
whole thing of like I'm connected to this mug somehow, is that
Yeah.
legit?
I don't know. It depends what they mean by connected and where the theory comes from, and if it's like based on some sort of science or some theory instead.
Yeah,
Because there are people that take this new age stuff
yeah,
or science and hijack it into this kind of like, oh, we are the universe is in us, and we are the universe. Because one could argue that the same stuff that's made, I hear this a lot, but like, oh, we are made of the same stuff that stars are, right? Now, if you take the Big Bang theory of creation theory that they have, technically, yeah, in a way, because you could look at the composite of a human body and say, okay, it's got this in it, this in it, this in it, this in it. Oh yeah, that's all the stuff that's in a star.
yeah,
Because it's meant to be that if the Big Bang was like create everything that you see now, then actually everything you see now
Yeah.
is from the original ingredients,
Yeah. Or
and we
like
all
we're all
share the
from
same
Adam
ingredients.
kind of thing.
Yeah, but
We
at the
share
end of the day,
95% of our DNA with lettuce.
maybe, yeah. Well, there
No,
you
we
go. But
do.
we're
We
all,
do.
yeah. I wouldn't be surprised, bro. But ultimately, bro, it's
But
like
what I'm saying that to say it doesn't mean anything.
it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
You can put meaning into it,
Yeah.
but that's what they do. They would just hijack that, put meaning into it, and be like,
Yeah.
oh, that's why they say like this. Was it law of attraction and all that stuff? Like speak your truth into the universe, and it will respond to
Yeah.
you. It's just
Yeah.
New Age universe worship. They used to worship the sun before. Now they worship the universe. You know.
There is another part of this thing. It's called the field is called quantum mechanics, right?
Yeah.
So there's this whole thing of particles act differently, even though they're not conscious. They behave differently whether they are being observed or not.
Yeah,
You heard about
absolutely,
that,
yeah.
yeah?
Yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah.
That
But
is
there's also
nuts.
they've achieved, as far as I remember, they've achieved some level of teleportation on a quantum level.
Yes, that
So
as well.
yeah, so
But can you
which
explain
proves
that?
the
Do you remember
theory.
the details of it?
I mean, the aim of teleportation is to take a particular particle, or in this case, what we want is like a group of particles that make up a human being, and transport them from one area of space to another.
Yeah.
Okay, and I can't remember how they achieved it on a quantum level, but it's about replicating that. And then it also brings a lot of ethical like questions because it depends how it's done. Is it transporting that exact particle, or is
Yeah,
it
or is
destroying
it?
that particle and recreating it somewhere else?
Yeah,
You know,
sure. I
and
think,
there's the
okay,
ethical question about
now I
humor and stuff.
remember. So the whole thing of particles behave differently whether they're observed or not. That's one thing. That's a
Yeah, yeah,
separate thing. The
yeah,
whole
yeah,
teleportation, I think, comes in when we're talking about. They did that. What's it called? There's an experiment, right, where they shot that particle through that slit.
yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and that was it. When it was observed, it stayed as a particle and it like went through the slit. But when it
Yeah,
wasn't observed, it went through it as a wave.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
the
yeah.
same thing behaved in two different ways. Yeah, this was like a breakthrough. So maybe the teleportation can work in a way where I'm guessing like we're made of particles, but if we
Hmm.
could turn into waves, then we could communicate those waves across thousands of kilometers, right?
Yeah. I mean,
And then we
it,
could turn back into particles on the other side of the planet. So maybe that's
possibly.
how teleportation could work.
The thing is, a lot of this stuff, yeah, is theoretical, and they could say, well, theoretically the maths adds up, but
Yeah, yeah,
will we ever achieve it is a different story.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
It's all a
I can't.
bit mind-boggling, though, isn't it?
The thing is, you always like you can draw signs from all of this stuff. The deeper you go, because at the end of the day, um, I'm not against. Of course, I'm not against science or anything. In fact, I believe science is a tool to better appreciate Allah's subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation,
Yeah,
and to increase your iman via that. Right? And that's how science was for Muslims in the past, and the Muslim pioneers of science. They used and utilized the scientific method to better appreciate the dunya and understand the dunya and draw from that benefit so that they could benefit the people with it, right? Um, there was a theory in the interstellar thing where it's like, okay, we can, the, the one thing that can transcend space and time is gravity. Okay, so they've theorized this way of communicating with the past via gravity. Okay, and then that reminded me. I know this is a complete shot in the dark, but it reminded me of this of the narration of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam,
so
where
so.
I believe his thigh was on top of someone else's, and he was receiving revelation. But when he started receiving revelation, it crushed the crushed the body part of the other Sahabi who he was lying on because he became so heavy, right?
Yes.
And then it just got me thinking, like that's a gravitational thing. That's something going on. That's something on a scientific basis that's happening. Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, maybe there's rules of the universe, there's rules of the way that the universe works, and maybe these things are happening within those rules. Maybe they're being broken
For
because Allah
sure.
Subhanahu wa Taala can do that.
Or
But I think
maybe it
it's
was
just
meant literally when Allah said, is the ayah, سَنُلْقِي عَلَيْكَ قَوْلًا ثَقِيلًا? Or there's the ayah where it says
yeah,
قَوْلًا ثَقِيلًا, so
yeah.
heavy word,
But
literally
this is
heavy.
it, and this is what it got me thinking was like, where is this being transmitted from? I know I'm going on a wild one, but it's like, where
Yeah.
is this Quran, this revelation coming from? Well, it's coming from a faraway place and reaching the dunya. And then it got me thinking, well, this is like that gravity thing that I was talking about, But even so, like the ability of angels to travel really fast. Well, angels are made of light and they're traveling at the speed of light. Allah knows best. I don't know, but Allah knows best, right? It's things like this, right? And
Yeah.
it's not here to prove the Quran in a particular scientific way. I believe what the Quran says, hands down, with no. But
Yeah.
these are just scientific flourishings that you can just sort of use to think, to just think, to ponder over things, right? To
Yeah.
ponder over things, because these are the signs
Yeah.
of.
Yeah, exactly. We don't have to, how do you say it? We don't have to limit these phenomenon to being following the rules of physics or not following. We
Yeah, yeah,
we don't
absolutely.
know in the end, innit?
No, we
But
don't know. But I think, the only thing I say, and obviously neither of us are experts, any Muslim that is in this field, don't switch off when you start reading this stuff. Like,
yeah,
don't switch off when you look at the James Webb telescope images or any sort of quantum mechanics or whatever. No, switch on. Like, use it as an opportunity to see signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation. Because I think we have this thing where even in school, you're taught like science is one thing and then RE is another thing, and they're so segmented and so
yeah,
separate. And you need
Christian
to
view,
switch.
yeah.
Yeah, you need to switch off when you're doing you know, reading the religious text, and switch off the science in you, and then switch off the religious side of you when you're reading the scientific books, right?
Yeah.
That's complete opposite for me. Complete opposite for me.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And a real example of just yani from a dunyawi perspective, like benefiting from this is quantum computing, right?
Mm-hmm.
As far as I understand, part of the whole quantum mechanics thing is that there is a third state, and having a third state unlocks more computing power because you don't have to have just ones and zeros, because
Yeah.
computers use ones and zeros, right? Or on or off or whatever, yeah, binary basically. So if you can have a third one, then it would, by what factor would it increase the amount of data you can communicate? I don't know, it would like at least square it or cube it or something like that, which is a lot. So I'm like butchering this, but this
But
is
it's the
like,
ability to
these are bits.
multitask on a completely different level, isn't it? To do
Exactly, a
multiple
completely
things.
different level, yeah. So and that stuff will actually become useful, I think, in our lifetime, in terms of, we talk about AI and we hear about how AI is like doing things in the world like more and more, right?
Yeah.
But AI relies a lot on processing data and like pattern matching and all of this. And so if you now introduce quantum computing with AI, it can process what might have taken a week to process. It will process it in a minute maybe.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
then it's a mad thing, bro.
Yeah, and also problems as well that he needs to solve, equations that he needs solving. You just
Yes,
dump it in the
yes.
computer and let it do
But
its
I was
job.
watching some like Vice video or something, and they're like, yeah, we like set up, either we put all the data or whatever into the program, and then we turn it on, and then we come back like in 2 weeks and it's done. I'm like, yo, we still at that level, yeah?
Yeah, but dude, like technology is just advances so quickly. And once again, you need to see it as another lens. You need to see it as a gift from Allah Subhanahu wa Taala to facilitate. You know, uh, but at the same time, you just know that all this stuff is also like not going to be here forever. you
Yeah,
know,
yeah. You gotta
Even
have
with tech-
both. You gotta
yeah,
play both levels, bro. Both games.
absolutely, absolutely,
Okay, if anyone wants
absolutely.
to look into this, it's called wave particle duality. It's like the concept that something can be a particle and a wave like at the same time or something.
I want someone to come on and give us a proper
Yeah, I
science
would be
lesson.
interested in that.
If
Like not
anybody's
the
like,
physics stuff, but like the how it applies to either philosophy or computing or whatever.
no, I wouldn't even mind the physics stuff, bro. As long as it's
Yeah.
like accurate, and I'd like to know what's kind of what at the end of the day, this is a dunya and we live in it. And I know I'm never a fan of people or Muslims in general that might shun this kind of stuff and be like it's not important. I just feel it's fascinating. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us to observe the universe, tells us to explore the universe and walk the universe, but the dunya, and walk this dunya and observe the signs. And these are all signs to me. But I've got a very, niche interest in, you know, this kind of stuff.
Yeah. I
And
mean, you
I
don't
have done
have to
for.
be interested in it, and you don't have to, shun it either. It's like up to you.
I
But
just think that
generally, but you're right. Generally, like, it's better to take an interest in stuff like this than like Premier League. That's
yeah, I
probably
just
more useful.
I think there's so many of these signs that have just been taken away from us because of the way that we live these days. And
Sure,
a perfect example is the
sure.
light pollution and not being able to even see the stars. I think that definitely takes things away. Um, and if you can get to a location where there isn't that much light pollution and just spend some time there, you'll find yourself just staring for hours, not realizing the time just going away. And I think there's definitely something innate there. I definitely think there's a few things in the human condition that I feel personally are maybe remnants of our kind of desire to be in Jannah, right? Like running water, for example, like water features. Why do we always like water features? We like fountains, we like the sound of running water, we like being by the ocean, we like lying down by a river, whatever. Like these are things like why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speak about, gardens underneath which rivers flow? There's something innate
Yeah.
in our desire to have that. And the
Why does
same
Allah
is
speak about hura? I mean, yeah, yeah,
That's a free one. That's a free one for the man, yeah. No, definitely, bro. Like, there's things that are innate within us, and they always remind me and they reflect to me. Because at the end of the day, Allah wouldn't describe those things in the Quran if they didn't mean anything to us. They weren't
yeah.
important to our, innate desire to have those things. And you go anywhere, like you go to some fancy restaurant, and there's a restaurant in London that I go to sometimes. I think it's an Afghan restaurant, and the walkway. So when you enter, the walkway's got running water under it, and then it
Mm,
breaks off into rooms like this. And each room, I think it's in South London, each room has got like water feature around it. And every time I walk in there, and there's like fishies on the sides and stuff, and
mm.
I'm just thinking like, this isn't natural. Like this isn't. You won't find this kind of stuff, in the. But what does it remind me of? It reminds me, in some tiny, tiny, minuscule degree, of those gardens underneath which rivers flow. You know,
Yeah.
where does that come
So
from? It
so
comes from.
is the floor glass and there was water under
Yeah, yeah,
that? I saw a
yeah.
house like that. Yeah, that's quite
But
cool.
it's something within us, bro. Definitely,
Yeah,
it's calling
absolutely.
back to our home,
Yeah, yeah.
no doubt.
Allah let us enter it, man.
I mean,
There was a restaurant I went to a few weeks ago. It's like fancy, like apparently in Istanbul, like a lot of the fancy restaurants they have alcohol and stuff,
right?
but in like certain areas, it's like known that it's not. It's more for like more religious leaning people. So the
Mm,
fancy restaurants there, they won't have alcohol. So
nice.
I went there and yeah, they had this. It's like a river flowing through it, man. Like
Yeah, man.
river with like a stream, yani, artificial
Mm,
stream with bridges going over it and fish in it, and like fountains, right? Is like spraying the water,
yep.
and yeah, you just like it. I don't know.
Something there, bro. It's like the UAE. They've got those waterworks that happen near the Burj Khalifa, right?
Yeah,
The
fountain.
thousand
Yeah,
star
yeah,
fountains. It's definitely something there, man.
yeah.
Definitely something.
This restaurant they have robot waiters.
All
So
right.
so
There's
they
the aim.
it's so funny, bro. It's like the waiter comes and takes your order. It's like it's a gimmick. It's 100% gimmick because
Yeah,
the
yeah,
waiter comes, takes your order, then he goes to the kitchen, whatever, blah blah. When the food's ready, they put the food on the robot waiter thing, which is it's
yeah.
basically like two layers of trays on a wheel kind of thing, yeah. So it drives up to your table, but then the waiter has to come and take it off the robot and put it on your table. So couldn't the waiter just carry it? I don't know. I mean, it kind of removes the journey from the kitchen to near the table, right? So the waiter doesn't have to carry that. But
Yeah.
the funny thing is, these robots they have a screen on the front of them, and the screen just has like a cat's face, and these robots go around and they're making cat noises.
It's just a novelty, isn't it?
And then I on the back of it, it has the logo of the company that made it, and it's Chinese. I'm like, that's so
Yeah.
Chinese to me. I don't, just from what I know about Chinese, I just feel like yeah, cats like cat noises.
It's ultimately like you can see it's like steps towards trying to create some sort of paradise on earth, isn't it? All these things. Like it reminds me of uh, the Neuralink stuff that Elon Musk's sort of Neuralink, getting the chip in your head and being able to do whatever with that. But then like you could get to such an extent where you could imagine it gets to some dystopian era of every single like what's the word, positive impulse can just be triggered with a press of a button, and then you could just be living in your mind, living in your own head, as opposed to in the reality. Kind of like Matrix style, where you could just turn these things on and off. Like if if everything is like hormones and dopamine and whatever, like
Yeah.
everything is, that's a theory, isn't it? All our actions are fueled by the desire for dopamine, and you could just have a dopamine button. You just turn it on, and that's all you need in life, right?
Dopamine party, guys, my place.
My place.
Dopamine for everyone.
God,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
reminds me. It reminds me of like, have you ever seen these silent discos?
No.
So, oh, they're really weird. I've seen them out in town where there's groups of people and they'll all get together and put headphones on and be listening to the same music at the same time, and they'll be dancing to it. But like to an outside observer, it's
Yeah.
just complete silence, and it just looks really weird. Usually they do it in like it's some weird novelty that people do, but I've seen them starting to do them outside now. So yeah, it's a bit
What
strange.
would
But it
be the
reminds me of like,
benefit versus a normal one?
it's just a novelty. It's the
Oh,
novelty, but at
okay.
the same time, it reminds me of that kind of observing this this sort of like people with like some sort of device on and then enjoying that in this bubble where you don't know what's going on, but they're clearly having a great time. And it's a bit like VR, I suppose. VR is a little bit like that as well.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. It's that
well,
Wall-E life.
yeah, man. Have you? Yeah, you used it. Remember we spoke about this on my Heist.
VR, yeah,
VR.
VR, yeah. Yeah, man, that vegetable life just.
It's about creating that Jannah on Earth, bro. And then it goes back to what you were saying, like
Even though it's like, in reality, it's closer to a Jahannam, but yeah, your
but
desires
for
would
a lot
lead you to think that.
for a lot of them, though, businesses are aiming for that. It's like, okay, everything on demand. Now you can just look up something on demand. You can order something same day delivery, or from same day delivery. Now you've got these theories of like 3D printing. Have it printed in a few hours. Soon it'll
Yeah.
be a few seconds. Soon it'll be a moment. Then you can print anything you want. Oh, I want a burger. Have you ever seen Spy Kids? I remember there was a scene in Spy Kids, like
Mm.
when I was a kid, this movie, and they've got these little packs. They shove them in the microwave, and like it just flashes, and it's like
Yeah, I remember
big,
that. Yeah.
yeah, Big Mac meal.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
It's that instant stuff, and it reminds me of like in general, when you ask for something, when you want something, your heart desires something, and immediately it's there.
Mm.
That's what they're very far off, no doubt, but that's where they're trying to go. Business's biggest dream is to be able to just provide the customer exactly what they want in that moment.
Did you? I don't think I shared this. There is a legit company that is. This is actually quite cool. Okay, it prints drinks. Okay.
Okay.
So imagine like those Nespresso kind of machines. Imagine you can have that in your house, and all you need to give it is these flavor cartridges. You just refill those now and then,
Yeah.
and it's got water, and it even like for those that want it, Yanni, you have alcohol as well, and it will have different. Basically, every drink like flavor can be made up from just like 3 chemicals or something. So
Right.
these cartridges have those chemicals in, and you put it in, and it will be connected to the internet. So you could download like recipes for different drinks,
Right.
and it'll just make you a drink like whatever drink you want. But it's all just based off like these 3 chemicals. That's it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's quite
Absolutely.
nuts. That's quite sick. And they were saying like it's not quite ready yet. It's called Canna. I can't remember how you spell it. I think it's CAANA maybe. Canna. Let me put like printing drinks or something. That might come up. Canna. Okay, it's a CANA. Okay,
Yeah.
and they got the website. It's a beverage printer. It says. Okay,
Right.
and $99 reservation fee today. And then the first 10,000 orders are going to cost $500. And then the regular price thereafter is going to be $800. Deliveries start 2023. That's not long away. That's like 5 months away. And you can see, cheers to a better way, everyday favorites. So it's showing you like you'll be able to just get all these drinks, like all these recipes will be,
Yeah.
and you'll pay for it, right? So you actually pay per drink, right? But it's going to be like 10
Right.
cents or whatever.
Right.
And so Coca-Cola can like upload their recipe of Coca-Cola, and they
That's
get a
it.
cut of that 10 cents every time you drink Coca-Cola. And then they were saying like, then Mr. Beast can have a drink. Yeah, he'll make
Yeah,
his
yeah,
own
yeah.
flavor.
Promotional stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Collaboration, this and that. And then he'll get a cut every time someone drinks his drink. And so it like encourages influencers or whatever to create their own drinks.
Yeah. That's
Quite
wild.
sick.
then all they need to solve is that replenishment problem. Like I remember listening to Freshly Grounded once, and Faisal was talking about Amazon buttons, which I'd never heard of before. But the theory was, well, I think it's actually a
Oh
thing.
yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
To put those little buttons on certain
yeah,
things, like whether it's your sugar box or your tea or whatever.
yeah.
And when the way it's set up is that's linked up to your smart device and to your Amazon account. So let's say you went to get some sugar, oh, you've run out, or you're about to run out. You've got a little button there. You press it, and it like auto fills a
It
transaction for you. Then
orders it. Yeah.
orders it straight to you, and that's the interconnectivity
I
of
think
being able to do that.
the big use case was you put this button on your washing machine and it will order detergent,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
that kind of thing. And each button is for a specific product. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't. That launched probably was it like 3 years ago or 4 years ago, and I don't know. Did it take off? I'm not sure.
I don't know. It's not. I mean, if you live in an area with same day delivery, then it could be something that you would definitely
Yeah.
use. Like I knew if I had the money and I had an area of same day delivery, yeah, it makes sense to me to do that.
Mm.
But it's this era of, well, not just an era, but it's always been like this where it's just one convenience to another, just trying to be more and more and more convenient, which has its downsides because it means that society speeds up and workplaces expect more of you because they expect you to have more time to do more work. So things aren't accounted for. Like now, like look at this work from home culture. Well, a lot of workplaces don't expect you to have to travel and don't expect you to. So if you're not on time for whatever reason, you're going to get less sympathy than before.
Yeah.
You should
Leeway.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like you're going to get let off early because you've got to travel. Well, all these little things like this, right? I've spoke to a few people in my organisation who they no longer take lunch breaks because they can't. The times are blurred. Like
Mm.
there's no structure anymore. You're just kind of working and eating at the same time, and these
Yeah, there's definitely
expectations.
an anxiety around
Yeah,
like, oh, is someone waiting for a response or
yeah, absolutely, and
yeah.
that's it now. So you can. It does transform. At the end of the day, it's not like the difference is in Jannah, you are given all these things because you've already earned it, right?
Mm.
You're not, but in the dunya, you can only get these things if you're still earning the money and paying the money to get it. So you can't necessarily eliminate that aspect. So
Mm.
these Amazon buttons, for example, or this immediate gratification or same day delivery, you still need to find some time to work to earn that privilege of getting those things on demand and having those luxuries.
Mm.
And that's something that the dunya will never be able to really, realistically get rid of.
Did
Is
you
that?
watch that podcast or whatever that was it Bahir his name? He posted it in the Telegram group. It was about like all these NGOs like the UN, World Health
Mm.
Organization. It was kind of like how they were going on. It was like a podcast, right? Two guys looking at these legit like documents from the UN and these different like international organizations, and basically like they're laying out the plan, black and white, for how they're going to create a one world government, like black and white,
Right,
yeah.
right.
And I actually think, bro, like that would be a dream for these big companies and governments. The Matrix would be the dream, and I do feel like we're slowly going towards that. Like what I mean by the dream is you're like a vegetable, right?
Mhm.
You have no passions, no desires in life. You're kind of, I don't know, the Matrix, I guess the people in those pods were sedated somehow. But you could
Yeah, they were,
sedate someone by giving them like the dopamine and the this and that and just give
yeah,
them pleasure, right? So you're just like a vegetable getting pleasure. You don't complain. You don't protest. You don't try and change things. You don't try and improve things. You just stable, and you're providing goods to the corporation through
yeah,
your whatever they were extracting from the people in the pods. And yeah, like they live life. You're quote unquote you're all right. Yeah, you're getting your
yeah, yeah, yeah.
happiness injected into you.
Absolutely, yeah.
But that's obviously a soulless and a pointless existence.
Yeah, I mean, so just on the Matrix, there's like a line that a lot of people miss in the first film, but
A lot of
um,
people miss. Come on, bro.
only because it adds context to what you said. Because
Yeah.
essentially, it's machines have taken over, and they're using human bodies as batteries essentially to power
Mm.
the themselves to power the machines. And there's this line where he mentions when he's explaining it, like this Matrix, that the movie, it's set in a not even the first iteration of this project. It's like, oh, this isn't the first time they've done this. They've tried it before, but they've had different versions before. And
Oh,
it's noted that before they did it where humans weren't given any sort of world to live in. They were just purely, like you said, vegetables.
yeah.
And it didn't work because something innate in the human existence is like they have to experience things as opposed to just having it. So they came up with, the machines
Oh,
came up with this idea that we should
like a VR
simulate
world
life.
kind of thing.
Yeah, so we'll simulate life so they think they're living a life. That way
That's nuts.
we can extract the best form of energy from them because they'll
That's
think.
nuts.
And there was another line I think where he's like, there was one life where they gave them one simulation where they gave them everything they wanted.
Mm.
So they lived in a paradise,
Yes.
and that didn't work because people went crazy for some reason. So
Yeah,
this
yeah,
notion
yeah.
of having to work for stuff didn't exist.
Yes.
It didn't work. A lot of them ended up killing themselves and all this stuff. So they
Yeah.
had to give them a life that was similar to the life that they're meant to be in, which is some are rich, some are poor. There's trials. And then there's also that example of the guy that gets unplugged and wishes he never got unplugged and makes a deal with the machines because he wants to go back
Oh
in.
yeah, that guy, the bald
Yeah,
guy.
yeah, and it's
The
true. It's
guy
like
who, what does he say? Oh yeah, he's got the steak on the fork.
yeah,
And he's like, you
absolutely.
see, I know this steak is fake,
Absolutely.
but I just want it.
Yeah, but there's a lot of lessons, in that. I mean, there's
The
some.
Matrix deserves a sharh.
It's interesting because although it was quite early on, even back then, there was minds that could see the way the world was working, and absolutely, you're right on the money. Corporations would want nothing better than a compliant workforce that basically served an elite few, an elite unplugged few maybe that could just reap the benefits of that because there is no
Yeah.
end to corporate greed.
But
There
the
is no
worst
end.
thing, though, the saddest thing is that the average, it seems like يعني, yeah, إلا من رحم الله, the average person would actually sign up for that. Why?
Mm,
Because the average person is living for desires. And if you could get your desires on demand through an injected feeling, then it seems like, I mean, according to what we're seeing, most people are living, how they're living, they would sign up for that.
absolutely, and for a
They,
lot of
obviously, they'll
people,
probably regret it later, but they would probably sign up.
this is it. Yeah, for a lot of people, they don't realize that that isn't going to bring them fulfillment until they've
Yes.
already got it all.
Yeah, yeah,
Nobody realizes that until they've got it all. That
yeah.
it's not doing it for them. There's something innate that's still missing. And alhamdulillah, it's the rahmah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He guides whom He wills to realize that early on. We've got the blessing, alhamdulillah, both of us and a lot of our Muslim brothers and sisters, the blessing that we can look at somebody's life who hasn't got Islam and feel sorry for them, despite the fact that they might have more dunyawi possessions. Doesn't mean that we don't sometimes have this inkling in our heart, like, oh, Allahumma rzuqni mimma razaqtahum, Allah give me what you've given them. But at the same time, we can rationalize any sort of person's situation and think, well, actually, alhamdulillah, I've got Islam, alhamdulillah, there's something promised. And this is why, going back to what we said earlier, just keep reminding yourself of that, of the majesty of what's to come, the majestic nature of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but also what He's created, the beauty of what He's created for us in the afterlife and for His, believing slaves, so to speak.
You know, you mentioned dipping your finger in the sea. There's that hadith, but I think the hadith maybe you were thinking of is the one where it's about the dunya in the first sama
Yeah,
is like a ring in a desert,
there's that. Yeah, there's that as well.
and then
Yeah.
the first sama in the second one is like again like a ring in the
Yeah.
desert,
Yeah.
and it goes like that 7 times.
And I think that's another thing. Like, you'd have to look at what the ulama say about the sharh of the first sama and where that stops.
Yeah.
Because one could argue, one could say Allah knows best, but one could say, oh, it's from here till, the atmosphere that we actually are in. That's the first sama, and then after that, the second one is, everything beyond that, the stars and stuff. But I've definitely come across, some tafsir of that as, well, no, the first sama is everything we can observe. Beyond that is the ghaib. And if that is the case, then that's incredible. That leaves you absolutely
Yeah, like
speechless.
all this madness that we saw on that video, that's a ring in the desert in
That's
the
just one
second
ring.
summer. Yeah.
Yeah, and it wouldn't surprise me. I'm not, of course, wouldn't put that beyond
Allah's
Allah subhanahu
capable
wa
of everything, yeah.
ta'ala.
Wow.
So, yeah, incredible, bro. Absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. You're gonna watch Interstellar now, and you're gonna get mind bended. You're gonna get mind heisted, bro.
You know,
Come
there
on.
there are certain movies, yeah, are actually sick. Like the story.
I should quote you on that. That's my nice quote. You know, there's certain movies are actually they're actually quite sick.
No, like a lot of movies, yeah, you watch them and you're like, yeah, whatever. I got my pleasure injection for an hour, yeah. But
Yeah,
some movies, yeah, like The Matrix,
yeah,
um, even is it Fight Club?
yeah.
Fight Club's got that. Um, the main message of Fight Club is like getting out of that
Is
vegetable
this
state,
is this what
basically.
a man looks like?
Getting out of that vegetable state, living, yani, for real.
Maybe they'll be better as books. I mean, the Fight Club was a book. I don't know about the Matrix or anything else, but
Yeah, I
it's the
mean,
idea that you
from
can
my
draw from it,
memory,
isn't it?
like I don't like. I think Fight Club had a lot of like bad stuff in it, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I'm just talking about
definitely.
the concept because I still remember the concept years later,
Yeah.
and that concept, yeah, and the Matrix. What else?
I like anything with time and any sort of time, you know,
Mm.
sort of
But it's
twists
rare that
or
you get a film with like a proper like deep message that's like it's not just like okay reality like a love story could be based on reality, right? Like very real and
yeah,
this and that and relatable or whatever, but it just some stories they just tell, they express it so well. I don't know, like the
yeah.
Matrix, like what we're talking about, like with the Matrix, it's like if you just think
Oh,
about
that's
that.
yeah. That's that. Even that as a concept. I mean, strip away the story behind that. Just that as a concept is actually very, and it has, it has spawned a culture of people that are very suspicious of the world around them, no doubt, and a lot of that, and wondering if they already are in the Matrix.
They're in a simulation, yeah.
And you hear that all the time. Oh, we're in a simulation. We're in a
Elon Musk
simulation.
said that we're in a simulation.
But at the end of the day, like even if we hypothetically were in a simulation, whatever
Yeah,
that definition means,
yeah,
yeah, we are in something that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala has orchestrated, and the real world, the revelation or the reality is when the veil is lifted. That's the way I present that in my mind,
yeah.
and
In that sense,
in that
we're in a
sense, it could be.
simulation, but I guess a simulation means it's not real. It
Look,
insinuates it's not real. Or?
there's this. The thing is with pop culture, science fiction, they will use the terms to signify higher power without necessarily attributing it to the traditional framework of Allah
Yeah,
subhanahu wa ta'ala or God. I watched I don't remember the film very much, but I watched a film called Prometheus once. And the beginning of that film is essentially it's a barren planet. Okay, so it's meant to be like Earth billions of years ago or millions of years ago, whatever, completely barren. And suddenly there's like this humanoid figure who's like some sort of alien, and he lands on the planet, or he walks on Earth, and he puts something into the ground, like plants a seed, right? And then thousands of years later, there's humans. So what's that meant? That's meant to signify that that's like the first, I don't know,
Genesis.
yeah, like a single-celled organism that then evolved into. So this other being, external being, is going
Yeah,
around and planting. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Like planting.
yeah,
And then there's this theory that actually human life, or not human life specifically, but like life in general, started on an asteroid or came from an asteroid from another planet and then landed here, and then yeah, that's fine, but it doesn't actually answer the question, does it, of where that original life came from, if that was to be your theory.
yeah,
So there's a lot of things like this. Like people will say, oh, actually, maybe it's aliens have actually guided our human evolution or whatever, or guided us with all this stuff. You're just saying the same thing we're saying, but in a different way. All we're saying is we're not saying aliens. We're saying a superior, higher being. You know, one could see like there was this film called God, I'm naming all the films, but all these are the films that kind of reminded me of certain aspects of the Deen. There's a film called The Day the Earth Stood Still. It's got Keanu Reeves in it, and essentially, the story, as far as I can remember, is like the world's coming to an end, and they need to, aliens have come to visit, and they're going to take all the children away. So like one boy, one girl, two of each animal, very similar to Noah's Ark, and they're going to take them to a different planet and start on a different planet. And it isn't until like the end of the film that suddenly these aliens that have been very creepy and very weird throughout this thing,
Mm.
suddenly you see them like they've got like almost like angel wings, and then you realize, oh, this is some weird like biblical concept of like the
Christian,
world's come
yeah.
to an end,
Yeah.
the angels have come to take people
Noah's Ark,
away.
yeah.
But the interesting thing is that all throughout the beginning of the film, they were perceived as aliens, as these alternate beings. So when I see all this stuff about aliens, or there is not no, let's push religion to the side. Let's talk about aliens and science fiction, all this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa, bring religion back, because actually, what is the definition of an alien? It's anything that's outside of what we understand, right?
Yeah.
So you could, I say this with respect, and I say this with the correct framing, but an angel or a jinn or these unseen beings are alien to us. So if someone was to say, oh, I just saw an alien, well, yeah, you could have seen a jinn, or you could have seen, do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So when they're like looking at the sky, oh, we believe we want visitors from outer space. Yeah, you had that 1,400 years ago. You had the revelations. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent via his angels to the prophets. You had that. You just don't like the sound of it or the look of it, and it doesn't fit your sci-fi aesthetic, right?
Yeah.
But ultimately, that's what we
Cyberpunk.
had.
Yeah.
This is it, bro. So all this stuff about, is there life out there? Yeah, life came. Life is out there. They're called angels. Life is here. It's called jinns. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the ultimate superior being that you are still waiting to be contacted by. Is there life out there? Is there intelligence out there? The ultimate intelligence is out there. Hey, we confirmed that a long time ago. But you're just not, it doesn't suit you. So you don't want to see it that way. You want something a bit more aesthetically futuristic, modern, or whatever you want to quote it.
Maybe it's a bit like the Jews who are like, or Beni Israel, who are like asking questions for the sake of it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like asking, like, how do you say it? Unbeneficial curiosity, kind of thing.
Absolutely. And this is why, like, if the Dajjal hypothetically was to come on a spaceship and land, people would listen to him, because that is the aesthetic they're waiting to see.
Yeah, bro.
You know what I mean?
He'd come with those circle glasses.
Yeah, absolutely, bro. But like, I come from that planet over there, Absolutely. But, Allah knows best.
Bro, if he just studies like the aesthetic of whatever it is, like whatever has the biggest cult following, whether it's like the Matrix or what's I think a Blade Runner, and whatever it is, he'll pick that and he'll like learn it to the T.
The thing is, it's like,
bro, imagine he just comes dressed like Morpheus.
Bro, like there's people have extrapolated all sorts of signs of the Dajjal from a hadith. I remember reading one about, I say reading one, probably heard it in some lecture somewhere, about like a flying donkey or something along those lines.
Flying donkey, yeah.
Yeah, people have extrapolate that to mean some sort of flying,
Actually, I think it's is it just a flying donkey, or might be a metal donkey?
Oh god, here we go.
That would be next level.
Metal.
Let me think.
Metal.
Hadith, Dajjal.
You're thinking about these. You reminded me of all these Pentagon disclosures of UFOs and stuff that we were talking about a while ago.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Bro, me and my uncle used to theorize this back when I first started practicing. Like, we were very heavy into like conspiracy theory videos and stuff. And we used to theorize like, oh yeah, all of this stuff is just setting up for a UFO arrival of the Dajjal, and he's going to present himself as like this other being that was like what I said earlier. Oh, I'm here, but I'm actually from a different like whatever, and this is why I can do these things. And actually, I am the creator of human beings, or whatever. I am the original human being, and I spawned all of you guys, and I'm here to lead you to
reptilian.
Man, you got to be prepared for this stuff, man, because he's going to come in whatever form is most convenient and most acceptable to people, right?
Yeah. Okay, so
trying to find hadith, right?
Yeah. This is this a hadith they're talking about? A donkey.
Bro, there's a lot of stuff that I have faint memories from my old days when I used to listen to anyone on YouTube, as opposed to trying to filter out.
Okay, no, I'm on a legit website with an answer. I'm not reading a question, I'm reading the answer. So it said, you're referring to that long hadith cited by Imam Ahmed about the Dajjal, a part of which reads, and he has a donkey that he rides. The width between its ears is 40 cubits. What's a cubit, bro?
Oh, it's big.
It says it's authentic.
Okay.
Okay, no scholar held that the hadith refers to a metaphorical donkey and not an actual one. Therefore, this means that the Dajjal will be riding a real donkey.
Apparently, this is a cubit between like my hand and my arm. It's about
Yeah,
18
okay.
inches.
So 40 of those. That's a big
Yeah,
donkey, bro.
it's a big donkey.
That is
Could
a
be an
big,
alien donkey.
that is a
Alien donkey.
big donkey.
Yeah, alien donkey,
So,
bro.
so the answer is saying that um, that the donkey will be distinguished from usual donkeys, as is clear from the measurement of its ears. So basically, he's saying that it will be like when you see it, you'll be like, that's a donkey. It's just gonna be a big donkey.
That's a big donkey.
What's 40 cubits? Yeah, cubits in meters. It's 18 meters. Oh my, bro! Even an elephant from an elephant ear to ear is not 18 meters. Wow.
Bro, may Allah protect us, bro. Because honestly, it doesn't even need to be the Dajjal in this day and age. It could be anyone with some grand idea, some claim that they can back up in the slightest way, and people will follow it. You know. Um, so when the Dajjal comes, it's a completely different story.
Bro, I could just
Yeah.
imagine this demon donkey.
Bro, so that's what we're gonna do when we get that DALI AI thing running.
Oh, that would be.
Bro, I did it recently with like the DALI Mini. I put the Dajjal in there. I wanted to see what would come up. Did I share it with you? I might not have it.
You
Anymore.
did that,
It
yeah?
came, it's like coming up with all these pyramids and all these like Aztec kind of buildings and stuff.
Ah,
I was like, yo, the AI knows where this Dajjal is.
wow.
So we're gonna put that into the AI and see if it can generate what the Dajjal will look like based on the information that's out there on the
Bro,
internet.
if we get access to this Dali for real, it'll be mad.
Bro,
I'll tell it to make the
dedicate my
thumbnails.
Just tell it to make a new co-host when I'm not around.
Oh,
So
you know, what was it I was gonna bring up, man? There was something that happened. One thing, yeah, you know about demon donkeys. Have you seen have you seen a bear without hair?
Yeah, bro, they're like, oh, they're scary.
That's like a demon kind of thing. Yeah.
That's scary, bro.
Also,
Right?
hyenas.
Oh, dude.
There's something evil about hyenas. That's why they're associated with magic in like East Africa and stuff.
Trigger warning on the hyena picture that's about to pop up. I can see you typing away, bro. I can see those
No,
eyes
no,
moving. They're
no.
looking-
I've looked at them enough, Yani. Yeah,
No, no.
hyenas and bats, they're pretty evil, man.
There's a lot of stuff that looks a bit like. Have you seen those like ancient Egyptian style dogs? Like Anubis is one of them, isn't it? Like the false god that they used to
Yeah,
worship.
that's weird. Where'd they get that from? I guess it's based on a dog, like a real desert dog,
That
right?
is a real dog, yeah,
Yeah.
that hasn't got like fur and stuff. And yeah, they're quite. But then again, you don't know what looks. Where does that come from? Like that's always something that's interested me. Like and that could be another topic for another day. But like when we look at something and we sense some evil from it, or it looks like where does that originate from? Because I observed my younger son because I was trying to figure out when fear starts kicking in and where that comes from. And like he didn't used to be scared of lots of things that he's now sort of scared of. Trying to think of an example, but like it's like where does that come from? Is that something innate or is that something learned? You know, for some things I know it's learned. Like I know that my sister, Miskina, she's scared of some bugs and stuff, and my son has seen her being scared of a bug or a spider, and then suddenly he's now adopted that because he believes he should be scared. But other stuff like you could see something and it looks vicious
Yeah.
or it looks evil. Where does that come from? You know, and some people would say, "Oh, it's the evolutionary thing," and you know, we're scared of sharp teeth and pointy ears and blah blah blah, and that's innate.
Yeah.
But yeah, something else could be something a bit more devilish.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Man, I'm trying to remember this thing, man. Oh, that
What,
was it.
bro?
That was it. Did you see this in, you know, Neom, yeah, in Saudi Arabia?
Yeah.
Did you see they unveiled like this new kind of thing about it? Did you hear about that?
Neon.
Neom,
Sorry, go
Neom,
back.
Neom. That city, that city
Oh, is that the
region in
long
the
thing?
desert. Yeah, the line, yes.
They're making some long thing in the desert.
Yeah,
Some,
the
like-
long thing in the desert, but they recently released this new kind of video showing that's gonna be completely covered in mirrors.
Right.
Did you see the video
I
at
saw
all?
a picture. I didn't see a video. I saw a picture.
Oh,
But it's like it's quote unquote a skyscraper, but it's not about the height. It's more about the length of how long it goes for.
It's gonna be only 200 meters wide, but
Okay.
like nearly 200 kilometers long.
Wow.
Let me see if I can find
They need
it.
some experts. They're after some experts. I think.
Here it
Over
is.
there.
Okay, so boom, boom.
Bada
Okay,
bing, bop.
how do I bring this up? Okay, screen share. Boom.
Oh,
That's pretty big.
I ain't seen no video.
Oh,
Oh,
I
it's
just
gone now.
deleted it.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, but I'm
So what? There's a
covering us.
consolidation. Well, they're consolidating all the buildings into a line. 9 million. Bro, this looks like some Akira level cyberpunk city slum. That's what that's going to be. It's way too condensed. What?
Yeah, so you're seeing it, yeah? I don't know why I'm not.
Whoa, why is it so condensed?
Yeah, it looks
Bro,
awful.
it looks like Halo
And the line.
together.
Okay, wait, let me turn this off. Why is it not just full screening it? You can travel end to end in 20 minutes, it said. 0 carbon. It's just like they're throwing these gimmicks all over it.
I mean, this isn't going to happen.
Yeah, I don't believe so. I don't think so.
This isn't going to happen, bro.
But you never know, bro. Like, with the help of, like, a big donkey. It's
Yeah, they'll run out of
500
oil before
meters tall.
Bro, where are they going to get money from? Bro, you'd need the whole world's resources for this.
I was
Actually-
thinking, you see this mirrors, yeah? The whole... So imagine a structure 500 meters tall and like 200 kilometers long in the middle of the
Yeah.
desert. You're going to get bird after bird just flying into that.
Bro, it looks invisible, bro. You wouldn't even know where it is. unless
Yeah,
you,
exactly. You'll just see yourself, and then next thing you know, you're knocked out unconscious. If you're a bird, Yanni.
It gets really hot. Like, it starts reflecting. Goodness gracious. So, what? I guess it's just because they can, as opposed to there's a need for that.
No, I mean, look, if you watch the video, yeah,
Is there like a benefit doing it that way?
absolutely, that's what they claim. Let me share my screen properly.
Crikey, Mikey.
Like this, but that's the wrong.
Now I can see all your WhatsApp messages, bro.
Okay, this is how I do it.
You might have to edit this bit out.
I will.
Got private things.
Come on, man. Current application.
You've got way too many tabs open. That's probably why.
Now you
You've got
can
an
see it,
insane
right?
amount of tabs. Yeah, I think I'm looking at it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, look, it says 9 million residents. That's a big city, isn't it? 9 million residents, yeah.
And is that just in Saudi Arabia?
Yeah. Look. You see how it goes from like the mountains to the coast.
Okay.
Yeah, and this region, it's next to it's Saudi Arabia, but it's like the northwest of Saudi Arabia. It's near Egypt. It's also near Israel, and I believe these three countries, they're gonna have some sort of like shared kind of economic. It's gonna be like a shared economic zone where it's like we're all just creating prosperity together in this region. So it might have its own, for example, judicial system, its own laws. Like a kind of like a free zone or something. And yeah, I guess the concept is it's like starting from scratch with all these idealistic concepts, right? So organized in 3 dimensions. Travel end to end in 20 minutes, right? So the concept of travel and transport being like all modern and like good. 0 carbon. What else? Autonomous services. So there's going to be no cars in this city, because it's just like a train pretty much will take you from one end to the other. Just one line would be enough. They're 170 kilometers long. Mirrored glass facade, automated efficiency, whatever that means. See, temperate climate. So it's like designed in a way to make it cool without needing to use a load of energy or something.
Right.
100% renewable energy. So these are like the benefits that they're claiming, right? Equitable views, whatever that means, access to nature.
Access to nature.
Yeah.
Bro, it looks like a prison.
Yeah, it
looks
does look
this
like one of
desert
them
prison.
dystopian things, isn't it?
Bro, it looks like those cyberpunk cities, bro.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen Akira and Ghost in a Shell and that kind of like?
Oh.
It looks like it will quickly descend into like all the rich people at the top and then all the slum at the bottom.
Just dropping the sewage onto them.
Absolutely, the line, the new wonders for
New
the world.
wonders for the world, whatever that
Listen,
means. There it is, neon,
neon,
bro. Bro,
neon.
are you
Let's
getting
be.
any New World Order vibes out of this logo, or not really?
The thing is, yeah, this New World Order thing, and just to go back to what you said earlier about everyone trying to make New World Order, bro, I've been in like meetings of organizations that just can't agree on the color of the wall, let alone try and like. I always rationalize these things with like, at the end of the day, any room full of people who are trying to go towards a shared goal always have individual differences that prevent true unification for these ultimate things, unless they are being like absolutely controlled by one being, one person, right? The only difference to that is in Islam, what unifies us is our shared love and devotion to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we that unifies us because actually we then position ourselves that in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala we are nothing. We have to serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that sense, right? We're slaves to Allah. But any other thing, like desires get in the way, individual competition gets in the way. Oh, he's going to get slices bigger than me. And do you understand what I'm trying to say? Like, so all these like new world order, is it going to happen? Are they like? I used to think that when things were going the way they were going, like Europe was uniting, we had the European Union and America's involved, and then now I see Europe like at each other's throats and Brexit and blah blah
Yeah.
blah, and like the moment like Boris Johnson left, suddenly his party are at each other's heads. Like there is no unification among in kufr. It might look like it from the outside world, but actually behind closed doors, they're just as much at each other's throats as anyone else would be. And I just don't think that it can happen unless there was some like a Dajjal kind of figure controlling them in a supernatural way, such as the ability to
But what
bring the
about
dead back.
like the IMF?
Yeah, there is that, but even the IMF, like the IMF is also an organization, not just with one person. The IMF, as quickly as it might appear to be taking over, it hasn't done as quickly as it could do because of probably these roadblocks and these politics
No, no.
internally.
What I mean, well, the reason I said IMF because IMF is a real example of a smallish organization having
Yeah,
immense control over entire countries just by the fact that those countries owe them money.
it's just not absolute control, and there's still
Yeah, it's not
that.
absolute control, but that's not
Yeah.
required to have whatever you want to call it, New World Order, One World
Oh, right,
Government.
yeah.
It's not
It depends,
required.
I suppose.
Like
Yeah,
I think it's already happening and proven that non-governmental organizations, right, whether companies or these organizations like IMF, they are literally influencing the economic, which goes into the social policies of
yeah,
whole countries just by the fact
yeah,
that you need I don't know $50 billion. We give you $50 billion, but here are the strings attached. You agree to them. Okay, now you got to do them.
yeah,
Simple as
yeah,
that.
yeah.
And they control one country that way, and then another country, and that's how it works. And the IMF is only one. There are multiple of these organizations.
Yeah.
Now, do those organizations like interact with each other? I don't know, but I think
That's a
if
bit
I
of
was
competition.
if I was like the top 1% or top not 1%, 0.01% of powerful rich people on earth, I wouldn't mind sharing the pie with a few thousand others.
That's
If
the
we all
thing.
eat, Yani.
You will share for only a short amount of time because that's human nature. There is no true sharing,
Yeah.
in kufr, really. There
You
isn't.
can argue that, yes, you can argue that.
Because what will happen is everybody's needs are different. It's the same thing with inheritance in Islam, right? Why does the man get more than the woman in some cases? Well, generally speaking, it's because the man is responsible for more, and the woman keeps her stuff exclusively, right? That's just the layman quick example. But actually, that's just a reflection of people's circumstances. Me and you could be splitting something 50-50, but my need for it might be more than yours, or your need for it might be more than mine based on my responsibilities and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
no matter what happens, inequality is always bred, or at least perceived inequality is always bred in all of these organizations and circumstances. Um, and that's why I think, like, as much as you think that they're out to get you and they're all united with the same purpose, don't think that they are, because the example is given in the Quran about the kuffar of Quraysh, who we it was perceived by some of the Sahaba that they're all united, and they're just, but actually their hearts were just as disunited, you know, as as you might expect them to be. If they didn't have this, they're also competing with each other, also backstabbing each other. They're also at each other's throats. So yes, right. It's easy as a Muslim, at least in a Muslim perspective, it's easy to be like, oh, victimize yourself and like, oh, everyone's out to get us. Look at the extremist, Indian Hindu sort of nationalists that are trying to go out against Muslims. Look at the Americans bombing Muslim countries. Look at Europe bombing, and look at France, for example, the way to treat Muslims. Everyone's unified in this war against Islam, right? Like that's you can perceive it that way and think, look, they're so united in this agenda. But then actually, remove yourself from the equation for a moment. Look how much they're buying each other and everything else. They might
they're
have
united on the goal, but they're not coordinating on it.
Yeah, and that also, if you could, if you knew,
Personally.
if I was, I don't know, I was America and you were France, hypothetically speaking, and you knew that you could get a little bit more of the pie of the world if you just backstab me in this one particular area, heck, you would do it. You would absolutely do it.
Maybe.
And I consider the same way, by the way, of Muslim nations and Arab nations that Muslims are often very critical over. I don't think that they are. There's this notion that, they're slaves to the West, they're slaves to the West, right? I don't think that they would miss out on opportunity to get a slice of the pie if it meant undermining the quote unquote Western powers, if the opportunity presented themselves to them. I don't think that. Look what happened recently with Russia, right? As soon as they've realised they can play a game here, some of the Arab countries started playing a game when it came to the gas, when it came to not changing the oil prices, because there was pressure from America. Listen, hey, we've got a gas problem here. Can you lower the price, whatever? And they're like, now we're putting our price up, because they found an opportunity. So it just shows you that, yes, you might think that there's a particular power structure and that's just the way it is and everybody's obedient. But hey, when you've got a slice of pie on the table, everybody's tempted. The temptation is there to whatever the risk is. So I've always rationalized it. I've rationalized it as like, look, you can have this fear of like global enemy unity, whatever you want to call it, or this control structure. But at the end of the day, when you water it all down to its core moving parts, it's humans on a table. And humans have human nature that goes unchanging. And that's the way I try and, not get super.
No, I do agree with you. I just have, at the same time, I can't deny what is happening.
Of course, yeah.
Like the IMF does exist and does influence things. The World Health Organization just spent a few years telling every country what to do and what not to do.
Of course, of course.
And
but I think it's just only for so long.
And I think this is the thing. This might explain why some people, not all of like the powerful people, but certain groups of them can be united on something. It's because some of them, they don't just share a goal of power or money. They actually have a philosophy behind it. And if they're united on that philosophy, then they would be more likely to kind of work together towards a thing. And someone was saying he was like a university professor. He was telling me, it was like not one of the major unis in the UK. He said, I was there over time I realized eventually the whole department, I think it was like physics or something, the whole department were graduates of Cambridge or Oxford. And then another guy that he was talking to, he's like, yeah, that happened in this other uni in the UK. And he said it's actually like systematic that they will get all Oxbridge graduates, they will kind of implant themselves, create the philosophy, if you like, put that in place. And then even when they hire people from other unis, just a certain culture and philosophy is in place. And I believe that's basically what happens in if you join the World Health Organization, like you said, you're a human. You're a human, you disagree, you agree. But the culture is in place and it becomes something you can't disagree with, you can't fight against.
But even so, it's not always like a meticulously planned thing. It's also human nature that it naturally occurs.
It's also randomness,
If you've been in like a recruitment environment, so an environment where there's a recruitment, like human resources, and trying to interview people for jobs and stuff, like they present it all online as if it's like an objective kind of process, but actually at the end of the day, when you're doing interviews, I've had loads of interview training. you can't help but human nature getting in the way about how you feel about a particular person,
Yeah.
and that influences your decision on hiring them.
Yeah.
So when I when I look at certain departments in the places I've worked in, and I'm looking around, I'm like, there is not a single man in this whole department. How has this happened? And then I realized, well, actually, some of the people that became, in the positions of hiring were women, and then women hire more women, and women hire like-minded women, and suddenly you've got like a department full of women that dress the same, talk the same, act the same, have the same interests.
And then
And
Muhammad
despite the
stuck with them.
but part of the objectivity, remove the objectivity that's supposedly there. At the end of the day, the core moving parts are human beings. Unless you're going to get an AI to make the decisions for you, which could happen one day, you're always going to fall victim to that human nature. So yeah, like you said, it could be that the Cambridge graduates made a plan that we're already going to hire these people, but it could be that actually the people they started interviewing, oh yeah, you went to Cambridge as well. Oh yeah, this guy's really good. He went to I found something there that connected us. I felt a connection. Yeah, we should hire him. And suddenly that just snowballs into suddenly like-minded thinkers all in one place.
Apparently,
No
even
change.
AI is biased.
Because all the information
Yeah, based on the data you feed it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And they always have that little small print, haven't they?
What's that?
Because if you go on the DALI website, there's a little disclaimer like some of the imagery and stuff is biased, blah blah blah, because it is based on the information it's getting is from a biased world. So if it's you might put in terrorist, for example, terrorist holding this, and suddenly you might get pictures of just Muslim-looking dudes.
Yeah.
Right, because that it's feeding off the information. It's a reflection of what the dunya is. It's not this unique thing that's come out of the blue.
Yeah. You can't get unbiased data, man, because the data online is comes from certain parts of the world way more than others, for example.
Yeah, the source is a human being with flaws and perceptions and stuff. And at the end of the day, it's imagery. It's imagery. So who uploads that imagery and who titles and you can put an image up, but the AI won't know what that image is unless you caption it and define it and organize it in a particular way. If I put a million images of a blue ball, bright blue ball, but it's actually a red ball, and then I get some AI trained, I put in blue, and it comes up with red balls.
Labeling, yeah.
It's labeling it. It's how is that labeled?
They've got they outsource this stuff, yeah. People in these big offices in, I think India is one of the places, just labeling stuff. Because you got to manually label before you can train an AI to recognize stuff. And also, did you know those Google capture thing where it's like which square has a yacht in it or whatever?
Yeah.
That's doing you're labeling it. You're doing the Google's work. Yeah.
That makes sense. That's very smart.
So that kind of stuff. You're helping them to do the whole self-driving cars and stuff using that input.
Right. That makes sense because I hate those things. The capture, isn't it?
Yeah.
Capture thing.
Capture. They used to do it by text, but then they got too good at that. Okay, yeah, we can read all kinds of letters now. Now we need to recognize images in the real world.
But then how does it know that I've done it wrong or right?
Well, because if they get 10,000 people to do it, then 90% are going to pick a certain thing.
I get you. So they go based on the statistic.
And then they go plug it into Waymo, and then boom.
Right. We need a third co-host, an AI co-host on the Mind Heist podcast.
Quantum and AI and what was it? Space stuff.
They've got all those AI chat things, haven't they? We can chat to a robot. We should bring one on next episode as a guest.
Chat to a sentient Google one.
Yeah, let's do it. Bring on a special guest. Nobody's done that before. We need to pioneer this podcast space, bro.
Absolutely. Little did you know, Jamie is an AI.
Jamie
from Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Okay, let's end it there, right?
What a wild one. What a wild one.
Podcast.com. Check it out. Give us your input. Join the Telegram group. Boom, 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 boom.
Can you hear the seagulls?
Bro, I could hear it the whole episode, man.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought this mic's not meant to pick up all that stuff.
Yeah, strange. But it looks good.
The window is open. I did leave the window open, but only because my old mic never really picked up that kind of stuff. So I just assumed. Listen, it adds some ambience.
And fix it in post.
We were talking about the ocean. We're talking about the sea.
Yeah.
This is this is what people listen to. A soothing, relaxing voice. Some seagulls in the air. Like you're on a beach. You listen to Mind Heist. You're on holiday, baby.
You know what? I just thought, yeah. Remind me to do this. When I
Go
get
on.
access to DALI, the first thing I'm gonna do is Demon Donkey and see what it comes out with.
Just put Dajjal riding Demon Donkey and see what comes up.
Bro, I can just imagine it. It's gonna be like very dark brown. It's gonna have these red eyes. Oi.
Oh,
I'm scared
Dali
already.
Mini.
I'm scared already. Okay, until next time. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم.
Salam.